Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. It doesn't really matter who the messenger was, it matters what the message was. So, the message is this: how lucky the politicians are that the masses are stupid. And that's exactly what these guys are betting on. They're betting on the fact that human beings overall are dumb. The rubble is rubble. There are some people who understand what's going on, but there are not too many and they don't have a loud voice. They will always be going to be covered by the noise of the so-called free mainstream media. What do we have here? The truth is there for all of us to see. The problem is, how do you interpret the truth? If you're honest, you're going to look at the truth as it is. But if you're dishonest, you're going to find and create a narrative. Let me show you a narrative. This comes from the New Voice of Ukraine, the 10th of July 2025. Czech intelligence, so the Czech Republic's intelligence services, says that Russia recruiting migrants to destabilize Europe. Okay. Russia is recruiting migrants to commit crimes across Europe in an effort to spread fear and erode public trust in governments. Czech intelligence has warned, citing the Czech Security Information Services. Czech Republic's policy is hate the Russians. That's by default right now. Everything that comes from Czech Republic cannot be trusted. In particular now, in general. So, this is what's going on. They said in the title, right? Let me go back here to the title, to the headline. Russia recruiting migrants. First question, why do you have migrants? So these guys are picking the baton from the third round. You know, when you run track and field and you have 4 people running and the second one give it to the third one, the third one give it to the fourth one, and the last one, I won for the team. So they are picking the baton from the second to the third, not to the initial question. The initial question, why do you have migrants in your countries in the first place? Don't talk about that. These guys are not talking about the primary issue. They go start the conversation from the secondary issue. The Russians are recruiting the guys that are in the primary issue. Why do you have migrants in your countries? Why don't you want to talk about it? So those migrants could be, according to your intelligence services, recruited by the evil Russians to destabilize your countries. Why would those good migrants want to destabilize the countries they're coming into that shelter them for the evil Russians? Why don't they go to Russia if they love Russia? Well, they're not going to tell you that. The point is this: they are fucking their countries at the orders of a small group that owns your countries in order to get these guys to dilute your nation. And now they tell you that it's not the guys' presence that could be used by external forces, by your policy. No, it's those guys' fault that they could recruit these guys. Now, I heard that people who want to migrate in other countries, they're going to be loyal to those countries. That's why ICE will not kick them out. They're loyal. They're even better than the natives. Everywhere except Israel. Got my hint? Okay. So why do you have migrants, homie? If they're so loyal, if they wanted to come in your country not for economic reasons, but for the idealistic reasons. You see how these guys are turning it? So anything that happens right now in Europe is not a resultant of the war in Ukraine and the weapons provided by the Western arms manufacturing companies with your taxes, taken forcefully by your government and paid for to the private companies and sent to Ukraine, and then on the black market sold to the organized crimes. No, it doesn't work like that. It's just Russia. Now, my friends, the politicians are very lucky that the ruble is stupid. And that's true. That's true. They will buy it. They will buy exactly that. They will not even ask the question, whoa, why do we necessarily have to have migrants? Why not, let's say, Indonesia? Why not Israel? Why not, let's say, my friends from Zimbabwe? Why don't you have migrants? Why do these guys, only the guys in the Western world, must have migrants? Do they own anything? Does the current population of Europe owes anything to anybody? I understand there were some crimes committed in the past, but it doesn't mean necessarily I have to accept you coming in my country, on my territory. We can solve things differently if I want. If I don't want, fuck off. What are you going to do about it? Let's say Lebanon, let's say Syria, let's say Indonesia, let's say Malaysia, let's say any migrant who would like to come, let's say in Europe. If I let you come here, you come here. Why would I want you to come over here? You can't blackmail me to come here. You can't. You come at my border, boom, boom, boom. That's what you get. One or two, they will not come. Only the crazies will try to cross the borders. That's all. You solve the problem. You just enforce the laws. But no, there's a small minority, a small group in your country that doesn't work for your interests. Wants to destroy your countries. How? Now the Russians who wants to recruit things that you have in your country. Why do you have your people over there? Like right now, let's in United States of America. You have the Palestinians and the Jews fighting in America. Why are they here? Why are they fighting here? I'm going to give you another example. Do you remember the 1972, was it? Olympics in Munich? Remember that one? There were some crazies, the terrorists, that got some, I don't know what terrorists they were, Palestinians, whatever they were, not Germans, in our Olympics, not theirs. They didn't have Olympics. They were just goat herding when we had Olympics, okay? They were just invited to our Olympics as guests to participate in our civilized Olympics, and they came, the Jews, the Israelis, and this, and then they have some terrorists settling scores with the Jews, with the Israelis in Munich, 1973, committing 72, I think it was, the Olympics. Do you remember what happened? Germany paid reparations to the victims of that terrorist attack because those guys were settling scores in our territory. What the fuck have you been doing in our territory? Why did we invite you the next time? Why? So when you have problems in America and you have, I don't know, Indians fighting the Pakistanis, why did you accept these guys? They brought their shit in your country. The same here. The migrants are ready to destabilize Europe. How did they get here? Why did you let them in? Did you vet them? If you are in the United States of America as a migrant, you're not a Romanian anymore. You're not a Pakistani anymore. You're not an Israeli anymore. You're not a Russian anymore. You are only an American. If you're in Germany, the same thing. If you're in France, the same thing. If you're not, you shouldn't have come here. No. We should not have allowed you to come here. You can't just come whenever you want. We do not owe you anything. And if we owe you something, make me. You can't. You're weak. You're weak. I am in charge. And I fuck myself. I can't do that unless someone else is in charge of me. Imagine a family. You, your wife or your husband, your children. And you're going to accept someone from outside who's going to demand shit in your household. Why would you do that? Unless you have in your household a little cuckoo bird that you raised to be your family, which is not your family, hates your family, hates your ancestry, and wants to destroy it. But Russia is recruiting migrants. No, when they're going to be the organized crimes with the Western weapons turning onto Europe that I've yapped around here many times, when that will happen, it's going to be the Russians. When the obvious reason is, whoa, just a second. We have alternative hypotheses here. And the main one is weapons provided by the Western world in the Ukraine on the market, on the black market. Why? Because of the corrupt Ukrainians that these guys don't know about. They're going to settle scores in Europe. But it's going to be the Russians now? It's not impossible. But why the migrants? The migrants came here. They should respect the country they came in. They don't want to change it. I tell you what is with the migrants. I'm a migrant, okay? Let's put it this way. But when I came to the United States of America, I came here because I love this country. I wanted to be an American. I didn't want to be a Romanian living in America. I should have stayed in my shitty world over there. But the fact that I left that shitty world and I came here, I voted with my feet. I decided I will move here. It's better. And it is better. So if I come here, I'm not going to say, you know what? I want you to change. I want you to be like there. Go the back, fuck off. I know the words were just put together and spilled onto you. After a little bit of wine, that can be expected out of me. And maybe too much truth at times. So here is, my friends, the migrants. Aren't the migrants, we're told in America that migrants are even a little bit better than the Native Americans, which is the people born here. That's a Native American. The other ones are Indian Americans, okay? They came from somewhere else, so they're not native. Fuck off, read a dictionary. I'm pretty sure you agree with me. My friends. And these things are still over there portrayed as a fact. The Russians will recruit the beautiful migrants. And some people will believe it, unfortunately. Well, do you know who the guy who said that? Who was the guy who said that? Lucky the politicians because the masses are stupid? Well, as I said, don't kill the messenger. Get the message. That's what matters. I think that's 100% true. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.